The next talk is uh, we heard Waking the Sleeping Giant. Senjam now thinks that he's got a lot to fill up. We now call Senjam Raj Sekhar from MPL. The talk is called Building India as a Global Gaming Powerhouse. Over to you, Senjam.
Shavik, what a riveting presentation. I learned a lot, and of all of the Indian games that you actually showed, I'm happy to have actually not just known one game but played one game as well, which is missing, and I'm happy that the developer from missing is here, Satyajit. Where is Satyajit? Okay, Satyajit, thank you. We actually put missing on the on MPL, and we worked with you. So great. What we worked with Lena, and it was great to have done that. Now, Shobik has actually said that India has been a sleeping giant in gaming for quite some time. Everybody says it's going to rise, it's going to have great potential. What I am trying to do here in this presentation is oh, it's here. Okay, that's fine. I was wondering why it's not coming here. Okay. So what I'm going to do here in this presentation is actually tell you why the time is ripe at this point of time for this sleeping giant to actually, while all the factors are correct, to actually for India to rise and actually become a gaming superpower. Now, if you look at the last 1-2 years, forget about GST and all of that, we've seen that as far as there are some factors in the world, India is actually ruling the roost. The largest number of gamers, the second largest number of gamers in the world, largest number of mobile downloads. So actually the picture is actually very rosy, especially the last 5 years. We've seen a lot of things happening in the gaming world, but I feel that we still are quite behind. So let me ask you a question. What do you think is the total revenue of the Indian gaming industry? Take a guess. It's $1 billion, so you can say any figure from whatever billion to whatever billion. What do you think is $3 billion? Okay, $3 billion is right. Okay, what do you think is the revenue of the Chinese gaming industry? Sorry? 900? No, not as that. 900 billion is not even what the global gaming industry. Sorry? 60 billion, okay, closer. Anybody else? Okay, 40 billion is the worth of the Chinese gaming industry. So here we are actually talking about a large bridge to gap. So we've got 3 billion here. You've got China at 40 billion. You've got global gaming at 200 billion. However, because we're at 3 billion, we are such a small base that we actually can actually make it very big. And I'll tell you, there are various factors which I think will actually make it big. But if you look at the top gaming companies in the world, we are not there in the top 50 as well. So of all the companies, top 200 gaming companies, Nazara, Shivani is from Nazara, comes at 67 in market cap. So our biggest company is actually number 67 in the world in terms of market cap. But if you look at the top gaming titles, Shobik presented a whole lot of gaming titles. But if you look at even your favorite gaming titles would actually be a foreign gaming title, would not be an Indian gaming title. You would not say, okay, here is this Indian gaming title that actually is my favorite. So anybody in this room whose favorite gaming title all time is an Indian title? Anybody in this room? Yes? No? Okay. Now, even in this room full of game developers or budding game developers, if your top gaming title, favorite all time is a foreign title, then we've got a long way to go. Now, here's where I'm going to bring in the China story, and the China story is very interesting because around 15-20 years back, China was in a similar position as India, not very different from where the India story is. Now, if you look at the largest gaming companies in the world by market cap, in the top 100 companies, do you know how many Chinese companies are there in the top 100 gaming companies by market cap? Around 30, 35. So there are 30, 35 Chinese companies in the top gaming companies in the world. However, in early 2000, and I'm talking about 2000s to 2006, 2007, the top titles in China, they were not Chinese titles. They were titles either from Korea or from Taiwan. And this title, which is a Korean title, was actually the #1 title of China in 2007, 2008, and 2004, 2005. So you had 80% of all game titles, which was outside. 70% of all revenues were all foreign. This was China as of 15, 20 years back. Now, what really changed for China? Number one, if you look at 2008, really, that was the time China surpassed US as the largest number of internet users. 2008, remember, there would hardly be around 50 to 100 million, maybe less than that, internet users in India, 2008. It crossed in 2010, it actually crossed the 1 billion subscriber marks. India in 2010 would be around 300 million. And 2010 was the same year, the number of online gamers, and that's a significant difference, and that's where China came in, because online gaming was becoming popular at that point of time. 2010 was actually the year when online gamers in China surpassed that of US and became the largest in the world. So here is what happened. One is you actually had Chinese game companies starting developing titles, developing games with a Chinese theme. They realized that, okay, Chinese gamers were taking to Korean and Japanese titles, they were culturally similar. So if they can do something which is culturally similar, why can't we develop games? So NetEase started developing, Shanda started developing, and this Fantasy Westward Journey became, the top-selling game for China soon after development, and it continues even now. The second one was actually very important. Chinese government started offering active support, and active support in terms of giving incentives to gaming companies, active support. There were some of them which are not necessarily things which could be done in a democratic world. For example, they banned console gaming altogether. So there were no arcade, no console games for 15 years in China. One of the things that really happened was that people actually started playing more of online games. They would go to cyber cafes and start playing games. So online gaming suddenly became popular because console gaming was not there. So people started playing PC, and then people started playing mobile games as well. The other thing which they did was made in China game began to be exported across the world. The favorite game for all India is a made in China game, PUBG, BGMI. So it's now the #1 to #10 from a mobile game perspective by miles. The other one is that so there was a NetEase and Shanda which was focusing a lot on domestic titles, etc. Tencent said, okay, I'm going to really go and conquer the world. So they started acquiring companies. So started Riot Games, Epic Games, the top ones, Supercell, Clash of Clans, all of those big titles they actually started acquiring. And the one part is not many people would actually think that a League of Legends or a Clash of Clans is actually Chinese owned. So you ask, any average gamer, they think, no, it's a European game, it's an American game. So that's what China started doing. Now, if I were to look at the China example and transport it to the India story, and this is why I think Indian gaming is actually at a point in which it can become from a sleeping giant to really a superpower in a few years' time. First of all, if you look at two things, if you look at data infrastructure, if you look at broadband, we've really crossed 1 billion. We have 800 million internet users. The other one is that we've got a very fine, UPI digital payment ecosystem. So therefore, what was there in China in terms of that huge spurt of growth in internet and mobile users, same thing is happening in India right now. And this has happened in the last 3 or 4 years. So data infrastructure, digital payments, really at the ripe stage in India. The second one is that the gamer is maturing. Usually you would think that, conventional wisdom said, okay, Indian users are okay with, a few ads here and there. But no, if you look at it, in-app advertising is not growing as fast as in-app purchases. So in-app purchases going, ARPUs are growing, and this is not just about real money gaming. It's also about generally ARPUs are going across India. The number of paying gamers are also increasing. So there is the Indian gamer is not just used to freebies. He has become accustomed to playing. He wants to play good titles, and he's okay with paying this. The other one, very important, is that there is a gaming ecosystem where influencers are playing a huge role, to the extent that the Prime Minister decided just before the election that I'm going to have a large this thing with the gamers. He did not go to some other influencers. He just went to gaming influencers and did a large do with them. The gaming studios in India have been around for a long time, but they've actually improved. They increased their presence in India. Zynga has been there for the last 10-15 years. You look at Ubisoft, Krafton, Glue. They're all in India, and they're all developing games. So we've got an ecosystem of global developers who have brought in their quality control, who brought in their expertise, and building a whole ecosystem of developers in India. The third one is that if you look at, and this has actually happened in the last 2, 3, 4 years, the number of independent studios focused on mid-core games. And India never really dreamt about developing a AAA game. At least you've got now 4 or 5 studios who are saying that I will develop India's first AAA game. Mayhem Studios is a studio that MPL, it's our studio. We are putting together a game called UGW, Underworld Gang Wars, and it has a lot of Indian theme in it. For example, it's a battle royale game, but your weapons include, let's say, a katta. Your vehicles include a bullet. So your locales are fort, they are slums, they are coal mines. So we've taken a lot of inspiration from India and Indian environment to create these games. Super Gaming, company from Pune. Yeah, Super Gaming is from Pune. Also coming out with their own games. Nottingham, of course, has come out with their own games. Light Fury, another company that just came up this year. So therefore, there is ambition that people have. There are people who have come up and said, I'm going to build Indian AAA games. And not just that, what is most gratifying here is that they are not just studios who are based in Delhi or Bangalore. They are actually outside metro. So I've taken 2 examples. Redimension Games actually won the developer, the upcoming game of the year at IGDC. And you know where they are from? 3-person studio. They beat Indus and they beat a lot of games. They are from Dimapur. 3-person studio sitting in Dimapur, building games. They are now got funding from Krafton, and they've increased the number of team size to 9. And there were some 7-8 studios competing, and they won the game of the year. X Squads, Surat, they have, I think, come out with the first version. They are coming out in newer versions as well. But you don't need to be from any part. You can be any part of the country and develop games. You can be in Dimapur, you can be in Surat, you can be in Kolkata, you can be anywhere. You can develop games, and these guys have actually proved it. This gentleman proved to the world that you can start developing games in your bedroom and can become the bestseller. So the gentleman Notch, yeah, absolutely. He created this in his spare time. He did not have a studio. He created this in his spare time, put it out there, and then became popular. Sold it to Microsoft after some time, made $2.5 billion. Now this game has actually made around $70 billion, and mostly in profits. So if one guy can create this, I think he's not just an inspiration, he's an inspiration to the rest of the world, saying that anybody can create any game from anywhere and can make it big. The other one is that Indian titles are actually creating buzz anywhere. You've got Ludo King. During the pandemic time, they actually became very, very big. 1 billion downloads is something that I don't think any developer dreamt of, saying that you can have 1 billion downloads, but they're doing 1 billion downloads, and they have gamers all across the world playing Ludo King. I'm sure a lot of you would play Ludo King as well. Raji, another game. The example was given by Shavik as well. Raji, another game which is doing well, actually proved to the world that you can go and win international awards. It went to the Taipei show, it went to the game show here, and then won awards as well. They say that funding has become very scarce for startups. And so therefore they say in 2024 you have to raise money for your startup. You have to add the name, you have to add either a prefix or a suffix saying AI. But if you look at it, this Light Fury Games actually raised $8.5 million recently. And this was started by not by a gamer, but somebody who was a marketing head of on Academy, and said, I'm going to create a AAA studio. And they said, okay, we like your chutzpah, we like what you're doing, your ambitions, and here is $8.5 million. And I'm sure there are a lot of these funds, and this Lumika is a proper active fund, and even the rest of them. If you go with an idea, and it's not just about developing a small game, you go with an idea, and I think people are willing to fund it. I mean, Nazara has also put up a fund for upcoming games, and we'd also, would love to fund games as well. But as long as you have ambitions, I think the time has come for developer community to actually say that I am going to build big games. I think there is not just small games that I'm going to put up on Play Store and then it's going to get some here. But if you have dreams, if you have big ambitions, funds are willing to put in money. Funds are willing to put anywhere from $5 million to $20 million. Mayhem Studios, when we put it up, actually raised around $15, $20 million. So people are willing to raise. I think Super Gaming also raised around around 10, $11 million. So there is the amount of money. There is the 10, 11, 15, 20, anywhere from $5 to $20 million. I think you can get, and that's the kind of ambition you need to have. And of course, the success of your game depends on how the game is. But then I think the ambition is very important. So therefore, while China did not have this ecosystem of investors at that point of time, they had government supporting. In India, you have this ecosystem of investors who are saying, I am going to put in money. So whether it is they are a fund, as in financial fund investors, or whether it's companies like Nazara, Ask, Krafton, etc., we are willing to put in money to get developers to fund games. So that's a bright spot here for the gaming industry. And the other one is Indian companies actually are now saying that, okay, we will go out and have operations abroad. We will not just sitting here in India, but we will go out. So Nazara has 60% revenues last financial year outside India. One of their properties, Sportskeeda, is doing extremely, not in the gaming space, but in the sports space, doing extremely well with terms of basketball, baseball, all those kind of scores people go to in US, they just go to Sportskeeda. We actually at MPL, we acquired a gaming studio called Game Duel in Germany. So we've got a large presence in Europe. We are in Nigeria, the largest market in Africa, and we launched our US operations around 2.5 years back. So all of them are doing well. And this year, actually, we got 35% of revenues out of India. So I think, not just, so there is game and there are companies as well who are saying that, okay, and Winzo launched operations in Brazil. So there is for Indian companies, there is an ambition to go outside and make mark outside India. So that's another good news. While the Indian government may not be as partisan as the Chinese government is supporting, but there is Indian government is supporting fully. The Prime Minister, even in the last NDTV interview which he gave, actually gave a lot of support to the gaming sector and continues to support Indian gaming and actually has come out and said that you should go and develop games with the Indian culture in mind. So I think all of these factors together, I would say that time is very ripe for Indian gaming to actually make its mark. All it needs is a bunch of folks sitting from here to actually come up and say that I will build the greatest game in the world. Take inspiration from Notch, who did it from his bedroom. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, sure.
So here Dipesh Gaurav from Gaurav Games Technologies. We are Odisha and Jharkhand leading game development studios. Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing this insight. From the last 10 years, you have shown how China gaming industry has grown and how we Indians have the huge potential. At our end, in Gaurav Games Technologies, we are building a AAA games for India and for globe. We are really inspired by your speech and we are looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Yeah, right in front of you. Okay, one behind, and then you, and then you, and then finished. Okay.
So,
Please introduce yourselves. Though we'd like to get to know who you are.
I'm Kumar Akash Nath from East Games. Really inspired by your speech. Uh, I have two questions basically. So the first is that not only you, a lot of people compare their country to China in terms of how they have reached so high in game development. But do you not do you think that China's malpractices and China's unfair play in the whole gaming ecosystem is a little bit ignored nowadays, right? I will just say the two questions now and then. Second is that you mentioned Electronic Arts and Ubisoft, right? So they have come into India, but their approach has not been the same as it would be for any other country, right? They tend to hire a lot of different work for India, but they are not investing heavily into the indie space that they did in Montreal. And they are also not very active when it comes to funding certain startups like they had to in other countries. So what do you think that their perception is regarding India as a start superpower?
What I can say is that there are enough number of funds and companies who are willing to invest in Indian companies, Indian startups and Indian gaming sector. So if you look at the slide which I presented, there are at least 20 to 25 active funds or companies willing to put in money. So I don't, as far as money is concerned, I don't think from an Indian gaming startup perspective, nobody's looking for $100 million to do a studio. You are looking for 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. That money is there, especially from somebody who's starting out. So I would say that what EA and Activision, etc., are doing or not doing is their strategy. They have looked at India as a development center, so therefore as a talent powerhouse, and I'm sure they look at India as in a larger sense as well. But as far as funds are concerned, I think funds are there. None of these, Lumikai has still a large amount of fund left to deploy for the Indian gaming sector. And you talk to these funds, they say that we're just looking for the right ideas for the right games and we're willing to put in money. So as far as those are concerned, I think money is not really a concern for Indian gaming industry. As far as China is concerned, which is the first question, I think they've done a lot of things right. I think from an environment perspective, the environment was ripe for China's gaming industry to grow. And also they've come out with good titles. If you look, in a gaming world, it's like a movie. A movie, you can't force a movie to become a hit. Neither can you force a gaming title to become a hit. PUBG, BGMI became a hit in India, essentially because it's a good game and they've got a good market for it. So I would give credit where the credit is due.
But the Battleground Mobile India, BGMI particularly, was ported by Crafton, right? And the development of Battlegrounds was not done by Tencent themselves, right? It was done by a European-based studio.
Yeah, it was done by Bluehole.
Yeah. So I feel a lot of players tend to, downgrade the malpractices done by China. Even today, if you want to publish a game in China, you will have to find a partner there in China. You cannot do it by yourself. So I feel like those things come into play. But
sure, we can take that offline and have a larger discussion around it.
Really, thank you. It was a wonderful speech.
Thank you. Any other question?
Last question. No, the one behind raised his hand first. Sorry. Next round.
Hello, sir, and thank you so much for the presentation. And I am Saurabh Bantopadhyay, an indie game developer. And my question was already partially covered by him, actually, because I was asking that can we directly compare the growth of China's gaming industry with India's gaming industry? Because for any company, foreign company, to enter in China, they have to hold hand of one of the Chinese gaming company. And when they are sharing the revenue, because when you are partnering with a Chinese company, you are directly sharing the revenue, and that whole red bubble which we saw in the first two slide, that China is leading with that 40 billion dollar revenue, and India is with 3 billion or 4 billion right now. So can we directly compare that we can project, we can take that kind of growth, because in India, every single company, foreign companies, Indian companies are independent, and we can take the growth on ourselves. Means if you are making a good game and you are entitled to get the revenue yourself after paying taxes, obviously, but it is not the case for Chinese gaming company. So that is my question. Can we directly compare the growth potential?
Yeah, potential is there. Both are large markets. Both are large markets. Both are a billion plus population. And while the growth path will not be similar, what I said in the presentation, if you look at the conditions that led to China's growth, which is large internet penetration, large, there was a, the ecosystem was ripe at that point of time. I feel that India, we have the right ecosystem, because you've got a digital infrastructure which is very, very robust. You've got a payment ecosystem which is very robust, and you've got a lot of other factors which is robust. So there are funds. So a lot of it, but India will have its own path. Of course, India will have its own path. Like the Indian economy will become a 5 trillion, $10 trillion economy, on its own path. But as far as potential is concerned, of course there is potential, and we can reach.
Can we just surpass China's revenue? Because I can see that potential is there, but do we have the revenue potential?
I think we have the revenue potential, but however, just remember that for China, the $40 billion is not just Chinese market alone. That $40 billion also comes from a global market as well. And the same thing has to happen for India. If India has to get a $40-50 billion, it will not just be Indian market alone. It has to be Indian gaming companies, Indian gaming titles have to roost in the world. It is possible. We need not one, we need not two, we need around 50, 100 gaming companies to become successful for India to do that.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And maybe one of these gaming companies will come out from this group here. Who knows?
Thank you, Senjam.
And maybe from Jharkhand. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Senjam. Thank you so much. It was a really good presentation. Thank you.